All right. Hey there, everybody. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Empire Interviews. Today, we're going to be talking to the wild Tangz, and I'm excited about this one. A lot of bullish news has been coming out. A lot of announcements have been coming out. So we're going to get all of the alpha here and get to know who's behind the project and what they're planning on doing going forward. A lot of big changes going on. A lot of alpha going to be here in the interview. Thank you for joining us. Make sure to share, like, and subscribe, and make sure you follow Wild Tangz. But all the information is going to be in the description. Without any further ado, let's get into it. All right. Hey there. How are we doing?
Hey, man. Good to see you today.
Good to see you too. All right. So I'm John, host of host of Crypto Nightly, and this is Empire Interviews tonight. I'm here with Thaddeus, right, from the Wild Tangz, or Thad.
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about. That's good. All right. I was gonna say, tell us a little bit about yourself, and tell me about how you got into crypto. What was your life beforehand, and what kind of led you to here?
Yeah, well, I always tell the story about how I read the Bitcoin paper 2011 or 2012 when I graduated college, and was the genius who said, oh, this will never work. They'll never let this become a source of fiat. I think it was like $80, $90 back then. So my buddy said, hey, let's go to like a Bitcoin ATM in Boston and let's go buy, 10 Bitcoin. And I was like, no, that's not going to be worth anything. Forget it. And of course, here we are. So I started my crypto journey a while back, and then I've traded it over the years, probably over the past 5-10 years. Never making too much money, but just always interested in the technology, and then really got into it in a real way the past 2.5 years. We launched Wild Tangz mid 2022. And so since then have just been building this project, started on Cardano, offering a lot of utility with our Series 1. And now with the Series 2, we've moved from Cardano only to Cardano, Bitcoin, and Dogecoin. So super excited to be here, and feels like a long time coming.
That's awesome. All right. So I got a little bit about how you got into crypto, but what was your life beforehand? Like, what did you study? What was your
So I did comp sci undergrad. I graduated about 15 years ago, and spent my first 5 years in industry as an engineer, software engineer. I was one of the founders of the Amazon Alexa. I mean, on the founding team, it was a big team, but on the founding team of the Alexa, and then worked at some big data startups. And so really cut my teeth as like a big data and transactional systems engineer, doing a lot of, I guess at the time we called it big data and data curation, and now it's more machine learning AI.
That's super fascinating. And I love that. I have, we should have a really long nerdy conversation sometime after this, because I have so many dumb ideas that cost way too much money to actually make possible, but I think would be fun, So if anybody out there has tens of millions of dollars that they want to throw in something that would be cool, I got some ideas there. I just missing the tens.
Yeah, I like tens of millions of dollars. I'll get on board with that for sure.
All right, excellent. All right, so let's see. Where are you located? What is what kind of was your growing up's like? Chiefs, all right. We like the Chiefs.
Kansas City, baby. So I'm currently in Kansas City. Yeah. I grew up in the Northeast. I mean, pretty nerdy kid, quiet upbringing. Kind of just like a well-to-do, kind of boring family. And I really nerded out. I didn't even start coding until college, to be honest. But once I found it, I'd always been the kind of math and science guy growing up. And then once I found it, I really, really got into it. Like the logic puzzles, the kind of gaming of building things, the ability to take something that was just an idea and then see it come to fruition before your eyes. I don't code for my day job anymore. I still do have a day job, and it's been interesting trying to balance Wild Tangz with that. But I just really enjoyed like growing up all these logic, science, and math puzzles. So that's really what got me into coding and then ultimately data and crypto.
So that's kind of funny. You touched on something that I always find interesting. So like, do you talk to, or do people in your regular job know about Wild Tangz? Do they know that you're a project founder? And like, I feel like a lot of times in this space, it's almost like that's like being in the that part stays in the closet a little.
Yeah, I mean, I have no shame about it, right? I mean, I think they sort of like they know about it, and I've told coworkers and things like that, and said, "Oh, here's my artwork." And like I was at a team on site, and I sketched a coffee cup and stuff. But like for me, I started as the artist, right? I did all the season 1 art. I was a developer, so I did all the coding. So like this has been such a passion project that honestly, it's felt more like I've done this in a really above board way and really tried to grow this thing, but it's been such a labor of love that like, when I talk about it, I think people are like, oh, that's a cute little hobby, so it's been interesting. Like, no, it's a real business. I mean, I'm here grinding on it, but yeah, they definitely they've heard about my artwork hobby for sure.
No, that's awesome. No, I think it's so funny because I find myself in like sometimes like meetings, right? And it's like people ask me my opinion, and I'm like, well, do I tell them my actual opinion about how blockchain is going to revolutionize the world and how money's made? You know what I mean? Do I try to explain to them the nuances behind how fiat is destroying everything on our planet, or do I just like glaze over that and give them the answer that they want? Right?
Well, when you used to have, it's funny because when you used to have a water cooler at these offices, that's where you'd like go to the water cooler and you'd be like, hey, y'all heard about this conspiracy theory? Like, hey, y'all heard about this, So it's funny. I don't have that as much anymore being virtual. But it is true, man. It's like, you let them in on your world a little bit. I think it's become pretty mainstream though, to be honest. Like my boss the other day was like, hey, does anyone own Bitcoin? Everybody needs to own Bitcoin. I was like, oh, okay. I guess we're talking about that now. And he's very buttoned up. So that was surprising to me.
Yeah, my TradFi boss the other day, he was like, you must be pretty happy. And I was like, no comment. I hold
the best is when people are like, oh, NFTs, like I hope you have a day job. And I'm like, I have a day job, but like I like this stuff. Like, why are you being so harsh, man? Like, it's so funny.
Absolutely. And it's definitely like a little bit more of, I think the thing that people glaze over is like, it's a cultural thing. Yeah. It's a cultural thing in the adoption of the internet. There's been different cultural movements over span of time. And like, this is another way of identifying your horde, you know what I mean? Your crowd, right. your people. And I definitely, I love it as well. And
people say things like, and then they'll do the like, you really bought a coin called Dude? And it's like, yeah, and they're like, you could lose all your money. I'm like, yeah, it's funny. Like, so yeah, there's an element of that they don't quite get yet.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. All right. So you've talked about the Wild Tangz a little bit. You talked about V1, V2. For people that have no idea anything about the Wild Tangz, can you kind of give us a brief overview of what they are, what is trying to be achieved there, and then kind of a breakdown of what like V1, V2, what these differences, what they categorize, like what happened, what were the catalysts to the differences in the project?
Yeah. So the goal behind the project has always been use my artwork and my time to build tools to support independent creators, right? And so my whole goal with this ecosystem is to build token-gated utility that can support independent creators. And we open source as much as we can. So it's like, if I build a minting machine for Cardano, right, I'll open source that because that'll allow people to be able to mint and create on their own. And if they want to use the utility, they'll come to Wild Tangz and they'll be an independent creator who comes to us and they'll use it. But for me, it's really about like supporting independent creators, supporting independent artists, building software for them, and then using the NFT sales to build token gated utility for them. So that's been the founding since day one. Series 1, we were so laser focused on Cardano. So like, we built a sweeping tool on JPEG before JPEG had multiple purchases. I don't know if you've been here for a long time. So you remember when you had the one click, everything on JPEG. So I built like a little sweeping tool for that. We have some minting tools for season 1, and unfortunately the Conway hard fork broke that, but I'm trying to get that online again for series 1. So series 1 is really like small scoped Cardano, a bunch of kind of little tools, and then people have kind of used those as they need. But through that, I built like an amazing community. I love the people I work with. I love the people in my community. Like they'll tell you a lot of it's just me. It's just like they'll chat me about something they need and we'll get it done. So series 2 is sort of the attempt to grow from that base, right? So series 2, you can either buy a series 1 and upgrade, or you can just join the community new. And series 2 is all about unifying the tools, unifying the app suite, really getting deep into mobile. We've started to mine Bitcoin with the community. We started to mine Dogecoin. And again, the purpose has not changed, right? We're using all of this tooling in this unified app to support our independent artists and creators. We just have more ways to do that.
I love that. And that's really interesting. So for anybody outside that is an independent creator, I guess probably the most important thing they can do is probably just join the community. And then see what tools are available from there. What are some of the other projects that you guys have worked with, or people in the ecosystem that you admire, right?
Well, we've worked with so many. I mean, it's hard to pick. We've had probably 20 or 30, everything from like kind of independent partnerships to, full on like, or, independent mints, like small little mints, to full on partnerships. Right. So for me, the ones I admire are the ones that are really pioneering new models. First off, I'll just give a shout out to Netanel Cohen. I think he's an amazing artist. He did the upgrade art for series 2. It has a whole new artwork, whole new vibe, and I love his stuff. So we've done mints for people like him when he has his Happy People mint out there. But we've also, we've partnered across chain, right? We've done work on the Dogenals community with Dogepond, and we've helped build the Dogenals bot, which can inscribe on Dogenals. And then we worked with Hashlings. We did a custom mint on Bitcoin for them, where it was more of like a character builder, and you could mint a hash lord out of it, and it had all these cool characteristics and traits. So I guess what I really admire about those founders is like, I feel like they're using the NFT medium in very interesting, innovative ways, and not to throw shade on projects that are like mint, stake, vibe, etc. But like, I think that meta was played out 2 to 3 years ago. And now the meta is like, what are you doing above the NFT, right? Are you token gating certain things? Are you adding to the community value? Are you involving people in, governance if it comes down to it? Like, how are you using this NFT as a way to build community, as opposed to just kind of like lazy and sometimes illegal passive income, Yeah,
100%. That's actually interesting that you said that way, because on the JPEG Empire side, we have created Token Empire, which is token gated. We have a trading bot that is getting worked on and getting better and better every day, that is also token gated. But we have recently made a pivot to add Clarity DAO tooling to our project. We wanted we really admired from the Omen community that they had a DAO that particularly encouraged participation. And so we wanted to create that same kind of thing where participation is what actually gets rewarded, as opposed to you just buy this thing, you stake it, inevitably get something forever, right? We didn't want it to just be like that. That's typically unsustainable. You can't just give away money forever without having some source of revenue. So the actual source of revenue would be participation and everybody's involvement in making decisions for everybody together.
Right. And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. That was it.
No, and I was going to say, like, part of this is where I'm kind of excited about the new administration. Like politics aside, right? We came out of 4 years of a super hostile administration, and in a way that was totally counterproductive. Like, I'm not trying to scam people. I've been here 2.5 years. I pay tons of money in legal fees. Like, I want to be above board. I'm the guy who you want innovating, because I want to represent America on the world stage. I want to represent crypto. Like, I do think this is innovative. So like what I'm hoping we see with the new administration and some of the changes we're seeing come down the pike is like, how can you turn NFTs, tokens from that kind of thing where only scammers and illegal people want to use them into a really innovative form of participation in brand loyalty, right? Like you love Nike sneakers. Why don't you get a say on what they design next, right? They're they would love that, right? You really love shopping at Kohl's. I know this household shops at Kohl's and Old Navy like nonstop, right? So why is your Kohl's Cash a fucking piece of paper and not something that's just digitally beamed to your wallet that you can use or give away? Like that's where I think I see this ecosystem moving if it's successful. And honestly, the hardest part has just been sticking around and grinding it out because you can see the vision, but the regulatory environment and some of the market dynamics have just been super challenging for the past 2.5 years.
Dude, I love that picture that you just painted because that just makes me think like Apple Pay, right? And Samsung Pay. I see a future where you're just using those at places you like Kohl's, or to buy your plane ticket. And then all of those credits, all of those incentives that they give you as a holder actually stay in your digital wallet, right? And then from there, you have the ability to exchange. So if I get a $100 credit from Spirit Airlines because I missed all my flights because they're terrible, now I can convert that to $100 worth of Gold Cash, right? Immediately, and then go spend that there without actually having to do all this extra stuff, right?
Yeah, and the biggest thing is like you want to be sensitive because all these like liquid secondary markets make this challenging. Like this is why we haven't launched a Tangz token, right? Because it's too easily redeemable for cash. And honestly, I almost like some of those roadblocks where it's like, hey, this is a closed ecosystem. If there is an XYZ token, it's meant for XYZ ecosystems usage. Like nobody's, there are people trying to get rich quick. And like I was talking about earlier, we all fuck around with memes and culture and stuff. And that's just fun and bullshit, right? But like the true brand building of like, I spent a shit ton of money on an Ore mob. I mean, for me, shit ton of money. Like it wasn't, a huge amount, but like 3 or 4 figures, right? On an Ore piece, right? And it's because I love that artist. I don't want to get rich off that, but if he has a new sneaker drop, like I'd love to get a push notification in my wallet and like go claim it with some tokens or NFTs or whatever. And a lot of that is kind of like the 21st century brand building. We really haven't, this really for me fundamentally represents a change in the way you engage with these brands. So we've been that way since day one. We've been so creator focused and kind of out of, that's kind of interesting and weird how we got to being creator focused, but like we've been so creator focused that I think we've always been trying to push the boundaries on what's possible with that kind of token gated utility.
I love that. That's very fascinating. So Ore Mob you mentioned, and like what are some of your favorite projects, I guess, in the Cardano ecosystem, in the Bitcoin ecosystem that you think have the most impact and like kind of the most ambitious direction that they're going in this space? Like what are you the most excited about in the future? Which projects are those, and what do you kind of look for in those?
Well, Wild Tangz, right? No,
well,
yeah.
Well, of course.
Yeah. No, I got you. It's funny because like to me, I kind of have mental models of different things I mess with. So like the ones I'm always bullish on for NFTs is pure art. Like you can debate, okay, these aren't people who are known in MoMA or the Met or whatever, but like seeing the stuff that like Trix comes out with for old money, like the art installations, his take on pop art, like he has a Roy Lichtenstein vibe, but with an emphasis on like ending the Fed, right? And like it's an interesting concept to me, and I love art like that. I'm not smart enough to do that shit, but like I just love that and vibing with that. And so I love what Trix is doing. I love what he's doing with the Ruggenheim, and like I think that shit's really cool. I don't know if that'll be a Cardano thing or a Bitcoin thing or an ETH thing. Like I think it kind of has to find its chain, but there'll definitely be a lot in the space around art and pure art and just supporting creators. I would say more from like a utility or kind of like a tech. Yeah. From a tech, I'm pretty bullish on some of these like projects where you're tokenizing assets and participation. So like World Mobile Token, I think is really cool what they're doing, where you're sort of tokenizing participation in cellular networks and telecom. There are some other projects that are trying to tokenize real estate. That's very hard, and it's like super diffuse and a lot of regulations. But anyone who's dealt with a real estate agent and knows how hard that is to put together, I'm really jealous of that. And then like one category of projects that I mentioned earlier in that kind of participation ecosystem is like Hashlings and us. We're doing tokenized mining services where you can kind of rent compute on demand. You can pay your electricity bills and you can participate in these decentralized ecosystems. I'm really bullish on that as well. So I guess those are kind of my 3 buckets, is like art for art's sake, utility, and kind of like participation in what
sort of like the deep end, like the deep end stuff where it's like where there's something that's being provided and everybody gets to take part in that.
Right, exactly. And like that one's trickier because of regulations. So there's like kind of like art for art's sake, deep in, real world assets, stuff like that. I find super interesting in utility. And then kind of like token gated participation in the network itself. You know, how do you use NFTs or other things as ways to token gate your access to network and network services, right? And we can talk about, I think like there's a whole analogy to TradFi. Like these are just basically like reused concepts, but I'm bullish on that.
Yeah, I love that. And I would like to hear that, what you think about the TradFi and how this is challenging some of that. What changes you see going forward in the future as far as the culture and the way that business is negotiated, I guess.
Well, I mean, for me, like, you know, I went to business school, so I just have like a super high level understanding. I'm not very deep in it, but from what I've seen of these systems, right, like the best ones are not ones that are breaking apart everything and tearing it down and saying nothing will replace it. It's sort of like an innovator's dilemma. Let's start small. Let's do something radically different at a lower cost point and then prove how that can scale. So one thing I would say about that is like, you know, art markets, right? What do you do if you're an art collector? Well, traditionally you call your guy, then who they call their girl, then they get a studio showing, then you get, oh, this hot artist, blah, blah, blah. But like what people weren't realizing is there's an appetite on the lower to middle end of the art market for people to actually start collecting. Like I sat at dinner with a woman the other day who makes her living doing these hand weaved sort of like intricate looms, and she'll sell one of them for $30,000, right? But I was kind of getting at her, like there's a whole market out there of people who would really love a print of your artwork in digital form with a certificate of authenticity. So crypto is the disruption to that on the low end to me. And then I think it's just going to reinvent that until it can move higher and higher and higher. Beeple with 69 million, like that may be kind of like a faddish thing, but there will definitely be serious artists, and there already are, who get into MoMA, put their artwork on display, sell the NFT of ownership for it, and then that person has the rights to it. So just one more story from the art world too. Like the way this is disrupted is most people don't realize the stuff in art galleries and museums all around the world is not owned by those exhibition halls, right? So like if you go to the Met, you're probably seeing artwork owned not by the Met. So one thing NFTs can serve as is that kind of sale and lending back, right? There were problems in World War II where essentially, you know, like my people had their artwork stolen from them in a massive way. We had this massive plundering of Jewish ownership of artwork. In the future, if you have NFT ownership of your artwork, if it goes to a museum, if it gets on loan, if you're in a third world country with artifacts, like the NFT and the digital preservation of that is super important for tying the provenance of it. So we're going to start on the low end with cheap JPEGs, but I think, you know, this sort of like digital sale of artwork, this digital certificate of ownership is going to totally disrupt that market, and it'll kind of reinvent the way traditionally it's been done.
I love that. I think that's great. One of the things that makes me think about is that there was a project and some people in some of the blockchain courses that I took at Columbia and Wharton that were talking about some of these projects where actual landmarks were being tokenized and fractionalized, because one of the big problems with landmarks and special like cultural sites and cultural objects is that the maintenance. They have to be maintained, and they have to be kept up to date and restored and stuff constantly. And so, like, how do you get community buy-in to actually facilitate that? And then so it's kind of like through the fractionalization and sale of these NFTs. And that was what actually preserved those areas. People that love the Eiffel Tower, right? They could purchase a digital collectible of the Eiffel Tower, and then like enough of those people, that funding would actually go towards preserving and maintaining. So there were different kinds of projects sort of like this. And what you were talking about with the provenance of art and different things, I can see that being translated to actual physical real world things, kind of like with the RWA narrative that is also coming. Yeah, that's what
very cool. Yeah, I mean, it's a wild time. And again, I think people hear this and they're like, you're full of it because it's just shitty JPEGs. But people don't realize, like, again, if you read Innovator's Dilemma, like when we started out with computers, and it wasn't that long ago, 80s, 40 years ago, I mean, you had floppy disks and hard drives measured in kilobytes, right? On my phone now, I have 256 gigabytes. I mean, you're talking about orders of magnitude of disruption and scaling up. So yeah, I think we'll get there. And I think a lot of that early froth of the market in the JPEG is going to kind of shake out. And then what's going to be left, hopefully, as you reinvent, are these new ways of kind of interacting with traditional systems, but in a digital form.
That's fantastic. So for people that are not in the Wild Tangz community, what would be your kind of message to them to inspire them to come check out what you guys are doing? You've already mentioned the art is pretty awesome. And like, what are the mediums of communication with what you have built, right? Twitter, Discord, all that stuff. Where are the best places to catch you guys and to get involved with the community there?
Yeah, follow us at Wild Tangz. I mean, jump on Discord. We got the discord.gg/Wild Tangz. For us, like, we benefit from, I mean, people will sometimes come in the Discord and be like, what's going on here? Like, are you launching a token? Where can I claim state? Like, all those traditional things you have in an NFT project, like, to me, that's not what this is about. If you're a creator, if you see the vision of this ecosystem, if you want to participate in the rewards from a decentralized system, like, come join us, right? We have mobile app utility, we have minting services, we have mining services, right? So like, there's a lot of tools out there and a way to participate and be active and then make choices that will allow you to be a part of this, right? To me, I've seen so many projects come and go, and I won't name names, but like, you really get into, I've literally been on spaces where people have been like, you're a fucking rugger, you're a piece of shit, you're a scammer, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like sitting there like, I'm just trying to, we're just trying to build something real for the creators. And then 3 months later, they rug and their Twitter's gone. So I'll tell you after the show, but, but it's like, for me, I really want to see sustainable communities built. And we are always going to be about supporting that independent creator and that independent artist. We just launched a new utility. We're going fully live with it January 1st, but and I'll share the tweet with you, but we're launching a fully fractionalized reserved mining system. So rather than throwing your money into an NFT and then hoping they just pay you out every month and then whatever, like, yeah, maybe you get some rewards, maybe you don't. We're literally saying for every Tangz you hold, you will get token gated access to 1 terahash of Bitcoin mining. You'll pay rent every month. You'll pay electricity every month. You'll decide when to start mining, when to stop mining. You pick your pools, but you get to be a part of that. We're token gating access to our community, but you are now getting access to that terahash of mining. If you have 1 Tangz, you get access to 25 megahash of Dogecoin mining. So like, that active participation, selection, and being part of crypto, that's what we really want to encourage.
That's crazy. Well, that is interesting. And I love that this is pre-recorded and not going to come out immediately right now, because we've been talking about, as a project, different ways that we can get some of these passive income things going on with the project. And like, something like mining is something we'd probably be interested in. And for everybody that's out there right now, obviously this is going to come out a little bit after the moment. So I'll have my opportunity to sweep, and then you guys can do what you're going to do afterwards. But the Wild Tangz floor right now, I think, is just 16 ADA.
Well, that's series 1, right? So series 2 is 115. So
But
go mint.
series 2
Series
is the
2 is
one that.
mining. 2 is
Okay,
mining.
series 2 is with mining. Okay, so then the floor is 115. So when you
Right.
compare this to where, and I'm not going to say anything about these projects, but when you look at like Titans, you look at some of these other House of Titans, you look at some of these other mining projects, even Sneckies, right? The floor price is significantly higher. So in my opinion, Wild Tangz is probably highly undervalued as
Right.
far as what you're looking at
Well,
here. And I mean, they're not.
It's different. It's different, right? I mean, for a lot of those people, it's like, I don't want to think about it. I want to go on autopilot. I want to just dump into a bunch of NFTs and get rewarded. And like, we're kind of active income, right? We're not passive income, right? Like, you're renting space on mining. You're choosing your pools. You're choosing your hardware. We're allowing you to reserve it and fractionalize it in a way that, like, you can't go out and buy a terahash, right? You have to buy a $6,000, $10,000 machine. But for us, we'd rather buy 100,000 in equipment and then give our community the ability to start mining and paying electricity and paying rent and participating. So I think, to be honest, some of the floor price is reflective of like quick and dirty ROI of like, oh, I just can get this much in this much time. But like for us, we're really more encouraging an active focus on mining and active participation. And we've seen people buy as many as 400 Tangz because they want to be a part of this future.
And the total is just 1,150, right?
So far, but the mint's still open.
Okay.
Open. So
what's the max supply?
8,888, but we've committed that as much as we're minting, we will get slots, right? So if you mint a Tangz and you upgrade for $40, we will get another terahash for you, right? So we are essentially, having people token gating this machine access, and then we will end up like buying the equipment. It's almost like AWS, right? When they have new users sign up, they buy more servers because they're anticipating demand.
Well, what is the mint price of Series 2?
So if you have a Series 1, you can upgrade. And the upgrade is about 40 to 49 ADA, depending on your discounts. But if you want to mint a new one, it's, let's call it 99 ADA, and you can actually get discounts for holding Series 1. So I've seen people getting them for as low as 70 ADA because my system basically discounts you for holding Series 1. So buy Series 1 for the upgrades and discounts, buy Series 2 to get, to get access to the mining tools. And really, like, again, I just kind of go back to that whole, like, we're about supporting independent creators and people who want to participate in a crypto future. And so that's always the approach we're going to take.
Fascinating. I love that. And I'm excited about this because now I'm like, well, I know I have a handful of the V1 Wild Tangz already. Nice. And I was just thinking from the project side, I'm going to have to do a little bit of investigation work to see if maybe we can just put together a bunch of the V1 Wild Tangz, buy a couple more, and then get some discounts on the V2 ones and hold some of them for the project. Right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we, come in our Discord, ask questions, and then maybe the mining is the appetizer. I think the mobile app is sweet, right? We have these beautiful ways of viewing your NFTs. We have, ways of getting push notifications for whale activity. I really hope that in the future, if you're a creator looking to build on a UTXO chain, Wild Tangz is your home hub, right? It has the wallet tracking features. It has the artwork viewers. It has the ways to participate in the networks in an active way. That's the goal for us, is to build a community of like-minded people who want to be part of the crypto future.
I love that. That's great. So Thad, it has been great talking to you. This has been a really awesome interview. I'm excited to work through this and, chop up some clips, get some stuff out there, get the word out about Wild Tangz. And thank you for joining me today. And I hope to have you back soon whenever you have some super new updates and announcements and things for us to work through and to get out there, because my goal as a creator, right, in this space is to give as much attention to people in this space that are doing, the Lord's work, right? We're out here basically trying to build something beautiful and innovative with tech that already exists. And we are in the phase of hiding the wires, where we believe in the technology, we know that it works, and it's just making it easy for other people outside of our ecosystem to digest, creating tools for people to use and be able to understand what's going on here. I think it's the most important thing. Nobody thought the internet was cool until everybody was using the internet all the time, and now we can't live without it. So I think that crypto and Web3 is kind of in that same space. I always say, like, the big thing about Web3 is this is where our ownership of our contribution to the internet is now our own, and we can receive our royalties and equity for our contributions in this network in this way. And so as we're building out here, this is where I see sort of like a lot of the future going.
Right? That's great, man. Yeah, I mean, it's funny, like the other way to say it in terms of if you want to steal this quote is like, when it comes to the history of crypto, we're in the phase of building bridges where they're still chopping down trees. So like, and walking across them, like we're so early, and it's so stupid to say that, but like, I literally am, since I've been around, and that's 2.5 years, think of what we've been through. I mean, can you imagine 20 years from now, right? So yeah, I'm very bullish on it. I'm glad people like you are bringing it to the space. And look, wildtangz.com, Wild Tangz in the Discord, Wild Tangz on Twitter, like just come join us, figure it out with us. We love other projects. We love partnering with people, and just really want to support everybody how best we can.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you so much. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for joining us. And everybody go check out Wild Tangz.
Awesome.
Peace.